Evening, guys. As you guys know, I did record my reviews on Monday. However, when I transferred the files to the new computer, it made it impossible to find those files, unfortunately. So we're starting fresh, getting back into reviewing futures and options Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and just however it goes, it goes. Yesterday was a bright green day on futures. Today was a bright-ish red day, and yeah, so it's just going to be Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. So we're going to start with reviewing my options trades from the first hour of market open today. And, it was kind of interesting today because we're at all time highs, but also, I just got a new setup and I'm dealing with a lot more screen space. So I definitely felt a little bit of like information overload. Um, Still ended up being green this morning on options. I just got baited into puts multiple times on NQ. One of the red trades I feel like was avoidable, but this was the first candle in market open. We're at all-time highs now on NQ and ES. NQ finally reached all-time highs, so we don't have supply and we don't have pivots. It's kind of hard to know if the market's just kind of going to continue up. You got to be speculative. You got to use fib extensions, general pattern-based PTs, things like that. So pretty difficult. And Drew, yes, I did have supper, dude. But anyways, so let me pull up my options channel and we'll kind of go through these trades. So my first trade was during this candle here. This was like a botched. So I entered when there was about 20 seconds left in the candle. If I go back one candle, I'm bearish on this demand on NQ to break. It's pretty much a perfect double bottom. I mean, it might actually be a perfect double bottom. Let me see. Not quite a double bottom. Off by one tick, but close enough. So I'm leaning bearish for this to break. NQ is also weaker than ES, or it did drop more than ES. And, I entered the trade roughly here when this green candle validated, and pretty much the hypothesis is, it was a fairly small one, is I'm bearish for NQ to not only break this demand, but head to the next one. Well, that happened an entire 5 seconds after I filled. So this is usually when I alert trades, I type out the trade in my alert channel, then I fill the trade once I'm ready, and then I'll edit the price and send it. Well, I didn't have the trade typed out at all because I wasn't really ready to enter puts. It wasn't until this red candle that idea that I got confirmed in once the red candle started. So I filled puts, and as I was typing, it only takes me about 4 seconds to type, like not long at all. I'm a very fast typer. Right after I hit send, it plummeted down to demand and bounced out like immediately. So I pretty much just, when I saw this green candle, I pretty much just scratched the alert. I sold. I was green on the trade. I entered somewhere up here. I was green on the trade. I was green by like 20%, or like 15-ish percent. I ended up just kind of selling at break even when that green candle happened because the play's over. I mean, it got to demand. It's bouncing out of demand. ES is sweeping lower lows and bouncing. It's a confirmed bullish liquidity sweep. The trade's over, so I kind of just scratched off that alert. I think I actually personally took a small loss on it. It was close to break even. Pretty much just once my P&L went back to zero, I sold it. And that was that. It was way too quick of a trade. By the way, I did not know, but in the morning, I didn't know in the morning. I didn't actually know until after my future session, but Powell was talking today, which really screwed up the market. Not as bad in the morning, but man, you guys will see in my futures review, it was pretty rough this Wednesday. Well, anyways, we ended up bouncing, and we invalidated that bounce, and NQ actually flipped pretty weak. So I was really considering puts on the NASDAQ again. And this candle happened. And I did end up taking shorts on this candle, puts. I entered puts on this candle. And really, I mean, this trade was okay. It wasn't bad. Looking back on it, I was a little bit too eager for this demand to break. If I just blindly followed demand and entered calls when I had demand, I would have got rich this morning. Unfortunately, that wasn't really the case. I entered shorts. It was a strength play. I'm bearish for ES to break low of day. NQ's weaker than ES, so in theory, but if ES breaks low of day, NQ should at least drop into demand pretty nicely. It happened. Was beautiful. I trimmed some. I entered QQQ 0 days, the 519 puts. Actually, I typed the wrong date on that one. And I trimmed it a little bit for 15%, roughly about half the position. But then we bounced. And I ended up selling the second half for a loss here. So pretty much it netted like very slight green, pretty much break even, maybe like 2% on the trade. ES didn't get to low day, and I wasn't willing to hold through a potential red trade. Obviously, I'm still bearish for ES to get to low day, but NQ now has made lower lows in demand and is bouncing with momentum and invalidating majority of the drop. I can't stay in this trade. So two kind of crappy trades that were right. Like they started off good, but they lasted for like 30 seconds. There wasn't really much to do. And NQ also flipped strong on this candle as well. This candle at 744. So was not trying to stay in that trade. So pretty much two break-even trades right out the gate. Yeah, this one was kind of, you could have been green on both. This one was pretty unfollowable. But now NQ is stronger than ES. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. ES is now going back down. I'm thinking it's going to sweep low a day. Wait, just kidding. Now ES is super strong. Well, that's weird because, I'm still kind of bearish on ES because it has this perfect trend line now. I don't really know what ES wants to do. It was just weak there for a second. I have this pretty much perfect trend line on ES. But I'm also starting to lean bullish for NQ new high day. I could not for the life of me make a decision. I wanted to enter QQQ calls here, but I just closed shorts and I still have some bias that ES is possibly going to break this trend line to the downside. Looking back on it, I think I should have. I mean, it was pretty difficult. All this on top of a brand new setup with a lot more information. Definitely not used to it. A little bit overwhelming, which probably affected my ability to pull the trigger when I needed to. But looking at this chart, yeah, I am bullish for NQ to get to this high. It's just I'm unable to pull the trigger on it. Especially now that ES rejected the top trend line and NQ strong. Well, I did end up entering calls on this candle here while it was red, bullish for NQ new high of day. And so here it was. Here's pretty much the trade. Small trade. I would have liked to be in a lot earlier. I wasn't. Well, it ended up getting to high of day. I took a big trim. I still had about a third of a position left, but I got pretty crappy gains. I only got 10% on it. Didn't really make anything. It was pretty annoying because ES was kind of shooting up, NQ wasn't. And this chop right here kind of killed the contract. So only got 10% there. So small green on the day at the moment. 801 is my next trade. And I end up stopping out the last of this on this candle here. Again, small green. I got like a whopping 7% average because I didn't close everything right there. But small green, whatever, it's the trades just aren't lasting long. I'm not getting enough continuation on these trades. They're just really not lasting long. Well, now here, I'm starting to lean bearish for ES new low of day. I need this candle to invalidate. Well, this happened. And now that NQ hasn't invalidated a majority of this drop, a majority of the bounce, I'm bearish for NQ new low of day and also for it to break demand. It's two zones, which is stronger than one zone, but both the zones are fairly weak. It's only 30-minute and a 45-minute. And, so I'm bearish for this to happen. I actually entered SPX puts and QQQ puts, half size in each, so I'm still leveraged with one position. I just don't know if NQ is going to end up flipping weaker because ES is now in demand. I don't really know. But anyways, I entered both, half size, and NQ, and I think my average was somewhere right around here. I entered SPX puts at 2.2 and QQQ puts at 71 cents. Well, this is kind of where crap started. NQ was a lot stronger than ES. I'm like, well, that's kind of shitty, but I don't know which one is going to be correct. ES looks like it wants to go down. I mean, I'm up 10% on ES or on SPX. QQQ, I'm down though. And, you know, it's whatever. But by this candle, I'm like, well, I'm out. So I stopped out of this. I stopped out of it fairly early on into this candle. NQ flipped super strong. I still had a little bit of SPX puts. I don't really know what to do. ES is kind of chopping down here. I do see the potential. I'm like, okay, well, clearly NQ wants to go up, and it is totally possible that ES, this is a bullish liquidity sweep from demand. I mean, we did get a volume spike. So I cut my QQQ puts for a loss, first loss of the day. It's a fairly good sized loss, percent-wise, but it's only half position. And the other half position, I actually averaged like 5 to 10-ish percent. I mean, I was able to sell at 2.4, and then I closed out at like 2.25 or something, so a little bit above where I entered, which also made this pretty hard for me to let go of my QQQ trade because the way the SPX puts were moving made me inclined to believe that it was going to continue down. But anyways, that is bullish on the NASDAQ. Now, I would love to fill on the NASDAQ here, except I just closed out of the trade. So, and I should keep this. I was still in SPX puts just a little bit. And I took profits on SPX puts here. Again, I don't know which is right. I don't know if we're going to go up. I don't know if SPX is going to go down, if NQ is going to go up, or ES is going to go down. I have absolutely no idea. But this is where I took a lot of my profits on SPX. And I left a runner because I just truly didn't know. But now, by this time, actually I filled it at 707. I was very, very bullish on NQ. And I'll go back. By this time, I alerted QQQ calls. And the exact alert is looking for high of day. I'm still in SPX puts, though. Very light. And I said, I wish I wasn't so freaking confused, but it is what it is. And then when we started moving upwards, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. ES may be breaking to the upside. So I was in a full-size call trade here on NQ. I pretty much sold the last of my SPX puts there. And this candle right here, early on into this candle, this big pop didn't happen until like the last 10 seconds. Well, once I saw that ES started breaking this pennant to the upside when it was right here, I sent out an alert and I said I'm very heavy in QQQ calls. I actually averaged up pretty heavy on those calls. I think I was double leveraged, which is something that's pretty rare. But finally, I was able to read something. I knew it was very likely to clear pre-market high. NQ was way stronger than ES. The problem is I wasn't able to commit to calls or I was in calls, I committed to them, but I wasn't able to be confident because ES looked opposite. ES looked bearish, but now with it starting to break that final bear pennant to the upside, I'm like, okay, NQ looks extremely bullish, and now the ES chart's starting to support that solid confluence. I have no contrary TA, contradicting TA, and I was able to make a decision. So I was very confident in it clearing that pre-market high, and it actually did. So this was a really big trade for me. I mean, it really pretty much just made my entire morning. And as far as the alert went, we got 44% gains on that. Obviously, I made a much lesser percent because I averaged up. However, my dollar amount was much higher. Very nice. So at this point, I was pretty bright green on the day. You know, it's pretty rare that I leverage up like that. But now it's starting up again. Now it's like, okay, they're going opposite again. I'm back to being bearish on ES. ES has invalidated this entire bounce. NQ is a potential bearish liquidity sweep. I could see some downside. So I'm very bearish on ES, and NQ chart is potentially supporting it. I entered SPX puts at the end of this candle. I gave it a shot. And I'm looking for ES new low of day. That's kind of the bare minimum. Now, I don't know if NQ wants to bullishly consolidate or drop. But right now, the volume spike, just like this volume spike, indicating potential reversal. It happened against a major pivot, and it is retracing. Looks like a bearish liquidity sweep. And ES is much weaker and invalidated this entire bounce. This was an easy trade for me to go full size on. And it happened. It was glorious. And I think I jumped the gun a little bit too much here. I'm like, okay, I took heavy profits on SPX puts here. This was beautiful. I got what I get, like 60% gains is what I got. 3.2 right here. From 2.0 per contract to 3.2, 60% gains was glorious. But now, NQS confirmed a bearish liquidity sweep, confirmed a super bearish momentum candle, and it's pretty much invalidating 50% of this run, a majority of the move. Finally, it's like, oh my gosh, I may actually get the demand break. And it doesn't look bad because ES could continue to demand. Once NQ gets down to here, I'm near certain it's going to break demand. But I wasn't willing to just commit. So what I did is I took really heavy profits on this. I literally left one SPX put left. And I entered QQQ puts 1/3 size, though I wanted to scale in because what do you guys see here? You can see a potential head and shoulders. It may want to do that. And if it does do that, that is fine. I want my hypothesis to give the trade some breathing room for that. So I entered a 1/3 size here, looking for this low. And we ended up bouncing here. I'm like, that's kind of a hard bounce, but I'll take my average down. So now I'm 2/3 size. I think my average dropped. I don't even remember what it dropped to. I entered at 54 cents. I added at 46 cents here. So my average dropped to 50 cents. And then I cut the trade. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me, man. This is the second time I've been baited today with a huge red candle on NQ. And it didn't happen. So I got baited. Looking back on that trade, I mean, yeah, it was okay. It definitely wasn't like a great trade, like something I would be eager to enter again. But I definitely feel like it had enough to be a solid trade. Like there was enough reasons for me to enter to where my entry was warranted. I knew not to go full size because it's pretty likely we may get a small bounce. But at this point, we even validated the entire drop. And I'm like, well, that is bullish now. And this trade was really painful for me to cut. It truly was. Like, it was really painful for me to take that second red alert today. Was very unfortunate. Did not want to do it. Didn't want to take it. But, NQ invalidated that entire drop. ES invalidated most of its drop with a volume spike. And now I'm like, well, that is kind of bullish. So what do? I enter QQQ calls right at the start of this candle. While it's red, actually, again, I get a pretty good average on this. I enter at 56 cents. Did it stay being a good average? No, it did dip down for you guys who missed the entry. So it dipped to like 50 cents. But now I'm back in QQQ calls, full size, bullish for Hive Day. I mean, I'm triggered in. Took forever. It was super choppy. Sold out here. And it did end up kind of continuing up, but that was it. So I actually sold most, obviously, with the way today's been. I sold the most right when it got there. But I sold the last bit on this candle here. You can see a volume spike on this candle. I was bullish for ES to break this high. And now it kind of sucked today for futures. Good on options, but sucked for futures because I usually start futures at 8:30 on the dot my time. If I did, I would have for sure caught this green trade here. I was very bullish for ES new high of day. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch it because I was trading options and I wasn't willing to trade options and futures simultaneously. That's over leveraging my psychology is really what it is. So I ended up just playing this on options. It was really nice though. Did end up banking. I sold most for around 80 cents for 42% gains. But then I ended up getting 71% on kind of the last bit there. And yeah, that was pretty much it. It was actually this candle here. Now it did end up continuing up just a little bit. Actually, never mind. The volume spike played out perfectly. But all in all, looking back on today, it definitely, looking back on, because it's the first time I've looked back on it today, I definitely felt like it was a way worse day while I was trading. I think that's because I was just feeling stressed out, overwhelmed. When I start the day with two trades like this that start off green and immediately I pretty much end up selling for break even, really sucked. And plus those trades happened so fast that I just felt rushed and stressed to not only make sure my trades are good, but send out the alerts in the channel. Plus, I had to deal with that with the new setup, so it was just pretty overwhelming. Looking back on it now, I think it was a fine morning. You know, only 2 losses, not bad. Every single one of my stop losses was pretty damn good. Needed to happen. Um, so yeah, looking back on it, I'm pretty happy. But that was what I did on options this morning. Decently good. Walked away green, even though I had a couple losses there. Luckily for me, this was not a full size loss, just under a full size loss. And these trades didn't really count, these ones right here. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the options this morning. Looking back on it, I definitely wasn't happy in the moment. But type in chat. Do you guys have any questions regarding this review? If not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the recording here. It will be posted on YouTube tonight, and we'll move on to the futures review. It is freaking painful. Lost my psychology today. I didn't really act on it. I started to, though, and I'll talk about that when we review the futures. But yeah, today was a very, very hard day for me psychologically, and possibly a lot for you guys too. But no questions. All right, well, I'm gonna wrap up this recording here, and then I will do the futures review as well, and I'll ping you guys in chat when these videos are posted on YouTube. But hopefully this was beneficial to you and gave you some insight into my thought process this morning.